Hey, if building a keynote feels overwhelming, you're doing it the hard way. There's a 15-minute method that creates clarity, confidence, and flow every single time. And most speakers, they overthink this keynote creation process. They start with slides, stories, or jokes, and they get stuck. Like, I don't know why they get stuck, but it's because they're doing too much, in my opinion. But great keynotes, like the phenomenal keynotes, they're built from structure first, not creativity, right? In this video, I'm going to show you how a simple 15-minute method to craft a powerful keynote can make a great foundation to build things off. Now, I will say this. I have a process called 80-20. And the 80-20 means 80% is the exact same, but 20% will change based on who you're talking to. The 20% is usually tied to their theme of the event, maybe different stories, maybe the actual demographic you're serving and what stories you might choose to swap out to fit better for that group. But the truth is, when it comes to you creating a keynote quickly, you should not have to go deep and redesign everything. But I'll give you some ideas in this video about how to be able to create a structure that is quick to make a phenomenal keynote. It's not changing it and making it bad, but making it quick to where it actually has foundations from anything else you've already done, but also has great constant we'll call it connection to the direct person you're speaking to make sure that what they're hearing is what that audience needs to hear. So the first step of all of this is to define the audience's problems. Take 5 minutes doing this. So what I want you to do is go, hey, who am I talking to? You should ask these questions well in advance of the keynote being created, obviously. So we call it a pre-event discovery call. In this call, I want to find out, what are you dealing with? Honestly, like, what's one clear pain point they are facing? Then from that, and I mean, so first off, when I see a clear pain point, I don't mean a collection of them. I don't mean lots of things you do. I mean, literally, what is the pain point that if they could snap their fingers and change this one thing or end this problem, what would they say? What will be the language used out of their mouth that says, I am battling this, I need this solved? It's your job to dig and find that. Now, it may not be at the surface level of their mind, but if you can talk to a situation that might frame up a problem, well, now you have something, right? Once you have a clear pain point, you can go to the next stage, which is create a clear desire. Now, if I was to start talking to people and have an idea of what I wanted to share, but it wasn't their need or their desire, I'm not valuable. I'm not going to hit the marks. They're not going to have a good time. Their audience may not get anything from me. So our job as speakers is to go, what is their actual desire from you being on stage? If you can't state this, the keynote's not going to land. Like, you could have amazing stories that fall on deaf ears or fall on unneeded hearts. And it could be great. But you might question, man, am I any good at this? And they might go, man, that sucked. When the reality was, it was just they needed something yellow when you were blue. Right? It's not that you're bad, but you didn't bring out what they needed in that window of time. And that's fixable. It's very, very fixable. So if you learn what these things are, you can state them, you can clarify them, you can make them simple, the keynote will land amazingly, because now you're not coming at this with some randomness. You're coming with a very clear idea of what you do differently that can serve people. That's what most people struggle with. So your job in the beginning is to go, hey, what is this actual pain point? What's the desire? And then, can I state this cleanly so the keynote lands properly? The next portion is, can you choose 3 core takeaways? Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video right now. Now, I want to let you know that I developed a speaker quiz that reveals what your speaker type is, the strength of your type, and more importantly, how to capitalize on that type to build an impactful and income-producing speaking business. To get this quiz and take it and get the information you need, simply hit the link you see below in the description, or you can wait till the end of the video to head over and check it out. All right, that's it. Let's get back to it. Now, this is going to be the second 5 minutes, we'll call it. With these 5 takeaways come into play, I literally mean, what can they take away and 1, tell somebody, and then 2, act on, right? This is something where they must communicate to somebody separate from this environment what it is that they took away, that they learned, and then what are they going to act on, and maybe sometimes even how. But if I don't have them understand what their problems are or what they need to work on, they don't understand the value of me being there. And if I don't give them marching orders or ideas, there is no value beyond me telling them their problem, right? So you have to think, what do they need to believe, do, or change? It's the best way of thinking about it. What do they need to believe? Which is, what do they have to have in their head differently than they had before? It's a new belief of what's possible or why they're stuck or what they should be doing. Then what do they have to do? Like, what do the steps look like? What are the actionable things that go from point 1 to point 2 to point 3? And this has got to be crystal clear, because this is what they're going to go and do to create next day impact for their lives. What must they do? Then what do they have to change? This one should challenge them. It should also inspire them, right? Do they have to change something? What must they change? That's been the hindrance, the unseen issue, the blind spot this entire time as to why they haven't made the changes that'll change their life. And I say 3 points max. Now, we design things a lot deeper and a little bit different in our coaching program. But in this setting here, I just want to make sure I give you some great solutions that you can use right now. But keep it to three. The reason why is when you go beyond three and you kind of get to like 4 or 5, the brain can't remember it. If you go less than three, it feels like it's not enough. So that window of three is very good for the brain for some reason psychologically, where people hear it and go, yep, I got to do that. And they can remember it 1, 2, 3, right? Less content is in fact more impactful. When you start shoving a bunch of ideas in their head and you want to I got to get this framework and this idea and this one, you now lose out on the truth of what you're there for. You're there for solving a problem, not just to tell stories. Right? The idea is the end destination of making them get an idea in their head of what they're supposed to do. That's the goal. But if you're focused on making sure every story does a specific, like thing, or like they remember every single story, every single in and out, every single moment of that, you're missing out on it. This is all stuff that moves them closer to understanding this end destination of a story or a message or a prominent piece. And so the idea is less content. Make it more impactful, it becomes more memorable, which means it's vastly more valuable long-term. Number 3, attach one story or example per point. Now, if you have a story about what you believe, what you do, and what you want to change, think of what is a beautiful story that it doesn't have to be chronological. It might not be in sequential order, and that's okay. But what is a story you can think of that ties to a belief, and how'd you come to find that belief? What was the experience of that moment? And I don't mean like when I was 5 years old, somewhere in that year, I had this epiphany. No, what was the moment? What made it? I was sitting at the table and my mom got my Cheerios and all of a sudden, the dog came over and ate them. And, I don't know, it was a mess and milk was everywhere. Like, give me the moment. Tell me what happened. Let me have the realization the same way you had the realization in your head. Don't just state it to me, right? But give me a beautiful story that's an example of this. When it comes to the doing portion, give me a story or a collection of stories that land this process. What must I do? So I get it. I go, oh, that is clear why I must do that. Then if it's going to be a changing thing, tell me a story of you changing. What did you adjust? What did you adapt? Why did you do that? Why did you choose that? How did you know it was that thing? What happened on moment 1 and moment 2? The time of the day? What was the weather outside? All these little things matter, and they're so incredibly necessary to give connective tissue to the story so it sticks to the person's ribs and they don't forget it. The idea is you must attach one story to the example so the person gets the story and they get to learn it in their own mannerisms, or not mannerisms, their own, we'll call it manner. That's a better word. They get to choose to learn it in what's called ethos, pathos, and logos. I get to learn it because it's the right thing, or I get to learn it because it's an emotional thing, connective, or the data supports that. Your job is to give it to the people in many ways, which happens in story, so they can learn the way that their learning modality is. Audio, visual, or auditory, visual, or kinesthetic. That's your job, right? Now, stories, they validate takeaways too. Like they actually give it some weight and some leverage because it's a real story now. So examples, they make it real. Not an idea, it's an actual real thing now. And you don't need many, just the right ones. And also I tell people all the time, no one knows a story you didn't tell them. No, you don't have to shove a story in there because you like the story. If the story doesn't fit to move that lesson across, do not include the story. Put in there what needs to be in there and nothing more. Point 4, add an opening promise and identity-based close. An opening promise is, this is what we're going to have to do. This is kind of like why this matters now, what you must do, right? The opening has to tie into why this is an incredibly important piece for them to learn and understand, separate from everything else. If they don't have this locked in place, they're going to miss out on something or lose something, or they're going to fall short of something. All those things come into play, and your job is to communicate to them why this matters. So they're stuck in their seat going, I must learn this. When you get to the far side, you must think about who they are after hearing this, or who they should aspire to be when they leave the room. This is really big for people that are trying to get individuals to move out of the space of stuckness they're in, because in order to move from that, you must detach from the identity you currently have. That identity has excuses that keep it there. It has perspectives that keep it there. It has reasons that it's made up for being in that position. And if you don't unstick them from that identity and have them attached to a new one that's a potential, well, then what happens is now all of a sudden you have this information that didn't stick. Identity makes the message stick. They can see themselves wanting to be like something specific, and it changes the game for them. Point 5, refine through repetition, not perfection. Test this talk live in front of people, live to yourself. But here's the big thing. You only adjust based on reaction. You can test by yourself, but I want you to give this speech, this talk live and see what people do, see what they say. See, great keynotes, they are built through reps. That's why you see a bunch of comedians go to many different places and try their actual set over and over and over again. Then when we see a special on HBO or on Netflix, that's like the 150th time they've given that whole talk, like that whole spiel, that set. Why? Because they tried a bunch of jokes. Some stayed, some didn't, some moved, some adapted. But over time, it became a consistent bit that they now work. And it's a set that they bring to a big stage because it's now perfected. But they tested it live. What the audience say, how the audience feel. And that becomes a really great situation of you having fun and trying something new, but also it's tried and true over time to where eventually it got locked in place. That's how great keynotes work. The stories, the delivery, the timing, the jokes that infuse in, all of it's done through repetition, not perfection. Once you do reps, it changes it. So here's the thing. Keynotes, they don't need to be complicated. They need to be clear. If you want help turning this kind of framework into a high impact, high fee keynote, go to speaktofreedom.com and I'll show you exactly how we help people do this. If not, I will see you in the next video.